When I was 19, my parents told me I was on my own now because I wanted to make my own choices. They said it like a punishment. They didn't realize they were also handing me the exact phrase I would use on them 10 years later, while sitting across from them in a bank office with their loan application on my desk. My name is Rachel. I'm 30 now, a loan officer at a mid-size regional bank in Michigan, and this is the story of how my parents cut me off and then ended up begging me to save them from their own bad decisions. Spoiler, I did, but I didn't have to be cruel to get revenge either. I just had to follow the rules they once weaponized against me. I grew up in a town outside of Grand Rapids, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and what you drive to church on Sunday matters more than it should. My parents, Mark and Linda, ran a small flooring and remodeling business. They weren't rich, but they were obsessed with looking like they were. We had the biggest Christmas display on the block. They leased new SUVs every 3 years. We went out to chain restaurants every Friday to show the kids the value of hard work. What we didn't talk about was how often the credit card bills arrived in red envelopes or how many times the mortgage got restructured. From the time I could count change, my parents drilled one thing into me: family takes care of family, but only if that family follows the rules. Their rules, specifically. By high school, those rules mostly boiled down to: get good grades, help with the family business on weekends, don't drink, don't date, don't embarrass us, go to the local college, live at home, and major in something useful so you can take over the business someday. I followed most of them. I got straight A's. I stocked shelves and answered phones at the showroom after school. I didn't party. I barely dated. But I dreamed about leaving. Not because I hated my hometown exactly. I just wanted a life that was mine. I loved numbers. I'd fallen in love with the idea of working in finance after a guest speaker from a bank visited our economics class and talked about assessing risk. I liked the puzzle of it. I applied to 3 universities. One was the local commuter school my parents loved. The other 2 were bigger state schools, one of them across the state in Ann Arbor. When my acceptance letters came, my parents gathered around the kitchen table like it was a family viewing of a movie they'd already seen. "Well?" my dad asked when I opened the letter from Lakeshore Community, the school 15 minutes away. "What's it say?" "Accepted," I said. He nodded like that was the only logical outcome. My mom beamed. "Perfect. You can live at home, work at the shop, and we can put your tuition on the home equity line if we have to. That's what it's for." I hesitated. "I also got into Great Lakes State," I said. "Their business school is ranked way higher. They offered me a partial scholarship." Mom's smile faltered. "That's 3 hours away," she said. "Why would you want to go that far when you have a perfectly good school right here? Besides, we're not paying for on-campus housing when you have a roof over your head." "Because I want the experience," I said softly. "New people, new city. I can work part-time. The scholarship helps." Dad snorted. "Business is business," he said. "You don't need some fancy program to learn it. I can teach you right here." What he meant was, I can teach you to work for cheap. I pushed anyway. "Great Lakes has an internship pipeline with big firms in Detroit and Chicago," I said. "If I want to work in finance, it's working in our finance," he cut in. "That's the plan. We didn't bust our asses building this business so you could run off and make some bank CEO rich." The argument lasted for weeks. In the end, they agreed to let me attend Great Lakes on one condition. I had to major in accounting, not some fluffy business thing, and I had to come home every other weekend to help at the showroom. "And if you think we're paying for dorm nonsense, you're crazy," Mom added. "You'll get an apartment with roommates. It'll build character." They signed the FAFSA where they had to, grumbling about nosy government forms, and took out a federal Parent Plus loan for what my scholarship didn't cover. "We're not a charity," Dad reminded me as he clicked accept on the loan. "You better make this worth it." At 18, it felt like a win. I was going to the school I wanted. I thought the hard part was over. I had no idea. The first year at Great Lakes was everything I'd hoped for and more. I loved the campus, big trees, old brick buildings, students from all over the state and beyond. I made friends who didn't care that my parents owned a flooring business. I joined the finance club. I discovered I actually liked corporate finance more than pure accounting. I called home twice a week, texted my parents pictures of my textbooks, my study group, my little off-campus apartment with the peeling linoleum. They mostly responded with questions about my grades. Any B's? Dad would ask. Not yet, I'd say. Good, he'd reply. Keep it that way. We're not paying for mediocrity. They never visited. On the rare weekends I could come home, I was expected to be at the shop by 9 a.m. Saturday sharp, smile on my face, company polo on, working the front desk like nothing had changed. By the end of freshman year, I was exhausted. I'd also realized something important. I didn't want to be an accountant. I respected the work. I was good at it. But the classes that lit me up were in risk management and commercial lending. I loved digging into case studies about why loans were approved or denied, what made one business a good bet and another a money pit. I told my academic advisor I wanted to switch my major to finance with a concentration in risk. Plenty of overlap in your first-year classes, she said. It won't set you back, and your GPA is strong. You'll be a great candidate for internships. I walked out of her office feeling like my path had just snapped into focus. Then I called home. Mom answered. Hi, honey, she said. How are finals? Good, I said. I wanted to tell you something. I met with my advisor. We decided it makes more sense for me to major in finance instead of straight accounting. It lines up better with the jobs I want. Silence. Did you clear that with your father? Mom asked, her tone flat. I just talked to my advisor today, I said. I was planning to tell him tonight too. It's still business, you know. Your father doesn't like surprises, she said. And we did not agree to pay for you to chase some risky job in Detroit. Accounting is stable. Responsible. Finance can be stable too, I said. I'll still learn the accounting basics. This just gives me more options, and it's my life. The last part slipped out before I could soften it. Mom's inhale was sharp. Well, she said. I guess we'll see what your father thinks. He thought I was ungrateful. That night he called me, voice already raised. You think you can unilaterally change the plan after we sign these loans? He demanded. Do you know how much debt we're taking on for you? Yes, I said. I've looked at the amortization schedules. I'm also looking at the salary ranges. Finance pays better than entry-level accounting. This isn't about salary, he snapped. It's about attitude. We said accounting. We said local. We compromised. And now you're moving the goalposts. I clenched my jaw. I'm still at Great Lakes, I said. I'm still working at the shop when I can. I'm just changing a box on a form. A box we're paying for, he said. Don't forget that. I'm very aware, I said quietly. He sighed, heavy. You kids think money grows on trees, he said. Fine. You want to play adult? You can start acting like one. From now on we pay tuition and fees. That's it. You cover rent, food, books and gas. No more handouts. And if your grades slip below a 3.5, we're done. Understood? It felt like a threat. But I agreed. What else could I do? Sophomore year was brutal. I picked up a part-time job at a coffee shop near campus, working the 5 a.m. opening shift 3 times a week before classes. On weekends I wasn't at the family business, I did Uber Eats deliveries. I budgeted down to the penny. When my car needed new tires in the middle of winter, I cried in the mechanic's waiting room. I still kept my GPA above a 3.9. My parents didn't say good job. They said, see, you can do it when we push you. Spring semester, things finally started to look up. I landed a summer internship at a local credit union branch, working as a teller and helping with basic loan paperwork. I loved it. I loved the older woman who trained me, a loan officer named Denise, who called me kiddo and walked me through actual files. "This," she said, tapping a debt-to-income ratio, "is why we can't approve this guy for the boat he wants. He can afford his life or his toy, not both." I saw behind the curtain of the financial system my parents alternately worshipped and feared. I called home, excited, and told them. "Oh good," Mom said. "Maybe you'll bring in some new accounts from your friends. Ask if they need new flooring." I swallowed my disappointment. At the end of the summer, the credit union offered to keep me on part-time during the school year. I said yes. I went back for junior year feeling, for the first time, like I had a path that wasn't entirely controlled by my parents. They noticed. And they didn't like it. The final straw wasn't about my major. It wasn't even really about money. It was about control. My mom called one Thursday evening, voice tight. "Why didn't you come home last weekend?" she demanded. "I told you," I said. "I had to work at the credit union. We're short-staffed." "You've missed 3 weekends this semester," she said. "Customers ask where you are. It makes us look bad." I rubbed my temples. "Mom, I'm taking 6 classes and working 20 hours, I said. "I can't keep doing full shifts at the store too. I need to sleep sometimes." "You think your father and I slept when we were building this business?" she snapped. "We did whatever it took. And now when we ask you to help once in a while, you've always got an excuse." "Once in a while is basically every weekend," I said. "For free. I don't see Jason, my younger brother, being required to do that." "Jason's still in high school," she shot back. "He'll pull his weight when it's his turn." "He's 17, I said. "I was doing weekend shifts at 15. "You liked it," she said. "I'd like the paycheck when they bothered to give me one." "I have to put my career first right now," I said carefully. "The credit union job is in my field. It could lead to a full-time offer after graduation." There was a long pause. "So your career is more important than your family," she said quietly. "That's not what I said," I replied. "I just can't be 2 places at once." "Well, clearly you've made your choice," she said. "I hope that bank is there to pick you up when you fall." She hung up before I could answer. 2 days later there was a group text, "Family dinner Sunday at 6. Everyone be there." When I walked into the house, the air felt off. My parents were sitting at the kitchen table, papers spread out in front of them. "Sit," Dad said. I sat. The papers were my latest tuition bill, a printout of my class schedule, and a copy of the credit union's job listing. Mom folded her hands. "We've been talking," she said. "And praying. And we've decided something." My stomach clenched. "Okay," I said slowly. Dad leaned forward. "You're 20 now," he said. "Not a kid. You want to make adult decisions without our input, fine. But then you can pay for those decisions yourself." I frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means we're done," he said. "No more tuition. No more housing help. No more loans in our name. If you want another semester at Great Lakes, you can go talk to Mr. Credit Union about financing it." My brain stuttered. "You're stopping in the middle of my degree," I said. "Just like that? You changed your major without our approval," Mom said. "You're skipping work at the store to go hang out with your banker friends. You clearly think you know better than us. So this is us respecting that. Also," Dad added, almost as an afterthought, "you'll need to find a new place to live this summer. Your room's going to be Jason's once he starts community college. We need him focused, not distracted by your drama." I stared at them. "You're kicking me out?" I asked, voice small. "We're not kicking you out," Mom said. "We're launching you. There's a difference. In 2 months, when the lease on my apartment is up and I come home, where exactly am I supposed to go?" I asked. "You have time to figure it out," Dad said. "You're smart. You'll land on your feet. Just like you always brag you can." I hadn't bragged. I'd just tried to build something that wasn't tied to their moods. "I can't get private loans without a cosigner," I said, panic rising. "You know that." And even if I could, you just told me you're done signing anything. Exactly, he said. Maybe you can get some scholarships or work more hours. Or take a break from school until you can afford it. Lots of people do that. You're not special, Rachel. The words cut more than he knew. I thought about the Parent Plus loans already in their name. The debt I'd feel guilty about for years. I have 2 years left, I whispered. Why now? Because we're done being taken advantage of, Mom said. You treat us like an ATM and a daycare. I blinked. I didn't ask you for babysitting, I said. Or money for clothes. I asked you to keep the commitment you made to help with college. That commitment had conditions, Dad said. Respect, obedience, gratitude. You failed all 3. Silence rang in my ears. He slid his phone across the table. On the screen was a text thread. The last message from him read, "Since you're grown now and insist on living your own life, we're done paying your bills. Time for you to be a real adult." He met my eyes. "Consider this tough love," he said. "From here on out, you're on your own." There it was. The phrase. I left that night with a duffel bag and my laptop. They didn't hug me. Mom sent one last text as I drove away. "Don't come running back when the world chews you up." I didn't. Not for a long time. I wish I could say I bounced back quickly. I didn't. I dropped out of Great Lakes after that semester. Without parental financial info or a cosigner, there was no way to cover the next term. I worked full-time at the credit union as a teller, picking up every overtime shift I could. I rented a room in a sketchy house with 3 other girls who were also semi-estranged from their families for various reasons. We called ourselves the Island of Misfit Daughters. I cried a lot. I also learned more in those years than I had in any classroom. Denise, the loan officer who trained me, took me under her wing. "You're good at this," she said one evening as we closed out the vault. "You see the numbers and the people. That's rare." She encouraged me to finish my degree part-time. "There's a tuition reimbursement program," she said. "We'll pay for some credits each semester if you stay on." It took me 6 years from that night at my parents' kitchen table to finally stand on a stage and accept my bachelor's degree in finance from an online program affiliated with a state university. I wasn't wearing school colors. There was no big audience. But I did it. On my own. During those 6 years, my parents barely spoke to me. They unfriended me on Facebook when I posted about graduating from teller to junior loan officer. They sent me a Merry Christmas group text a couple of times. "No, how are you? No, do you need anything?" My brother, Jason, checked in occasionally from a burner Instagram account so our parents wouldn't see. "Mom tells everyone you ran off with some boyfriend and quit school," he DM'd once. "Joke's on her," I replied. "I'm dating Excel spreadsheets." By 28, I was a full loan officer at a much larger bank, Horizon Midwest. I worked in a glass-walled office at a branch 20 minutes from the town I'd grown up in, handling personal loans, small business lines, and the occasional mortgage. It was surreal. People I'd gone to high school with came in for auto loans. Old teachers opened CDs and joked, "Look at you, Miss Finance." My parents never came in. I assumed they banked somewhere else. It was better that way. Until it wasn't. The day their file landed on my desk, I almost deleted it. Not permanently, of course there are digital tracks for everything in banking, but I had a momentary urge to pretend I hadn't seen it. It was a Thursday afternoon in late October. I'd just come back from lunch and was working through the incoming queue, new applications, follow-ups, document requests. I clicked open the next one. "Mark and Linda Miller," the system said. "Requested product, home equity line of credit $250,000. I stared at the names. My stomach dropped. I clicked into the file. There were scanned driver's licenses, my dad a little grayer, my mom with a new haircut. There was their address, same house I'd grown up in. There was a note from the branch manager who'd submitted the app, met with clients in person. Longtime local business owners looking to consolidate existing debts and fund expansion/marketing for Miller Flooring and AMP Design. Suggested we fast-track this one if possible. Strong community presence. I almost laughed. Strong community presence. I checked the assignment field. Assigned to Rachel Miller. Our software automatically routed applications by product type and branch, and sometimes tried to match last names, assuming local knowledge would be helpful. Great. I sat back, heart pounding. I had a choice. I could walk into my manager's office and say, "Conflict of interest, please reassign." That would be reasonable. I could also handle it like any other file, following policy to the letter, letting the numbers decide. A small, sharp part of me wanted to go farther, to find some technicality and slam the door just to watch their faces. But banking doesn't work like that. There are rules. There are audits. If I messed with the process to spite my parents, I'd be the one in trouble. I took a deep breath and walked to my manager Sam's office. He looked up from his computer. "What's up, Rachel?" I closed the door. "I just got a HELOC application from Mark and Linda Miller," I said. "They're my parents." His eyebrows rose. "Oh," he said. "That's fun." I wanted to flag the conflict, I said. "I can either recuse and you can reassign, or I can handle it by the book, but I wanted you to know." Sam leaned back, thinking. "Bank policy says immediate family loans should be approved by a second officer," he said. "But it doesn't forbid you from working the file, as long as there's oversight." He gave me a searching look. "Can you be objective?" he asked. "If they qualify, can you approve? If they don't, can you decline without making it personal?" I thought about the night at the kitchen table. The text, "You're on your own." I thought about every double shift, every tear in the break room, every semester I'd scraped together tuition for. I thought about the people whose loans I'd approved and declined over the years, based purely on policy. "I can follow the guidelines," I said. He nodded. "Okay," he said. "Work it like any other file. I'll review your recommendation before we give them a final answer." "And Rachel, yeah? If at any point you feel it's too much, we can hand it off," he said. "Your mental health is more important than one loan." I appreciated that. But I also knew something else. My mental health, for once, might benefit from not backing down. I went back to my office and pulled their credit reports. It was like opening a financial crime scene. Multiple maxed-out credit cards. 2 auto loans, 190 days past due in the last year. A small business line of credit with another bank, nearly tapped. A note on the mortgage, they'd refinanced 3 times in the past decade, each time pulling out more equity. And there, buried under all that, like a ghost of my past, a Parent Plus loan, opened the year I'd started Great Lakes. Current now, but only after a period of serious delinquency 5 years ago. I remembered getting a letter from the Department of Education during that time, saying my parents were behind. I'd called them, panicked. They brushed it off. "We handled it," Dad had said. "Stop worrying." It hadn't been handled. They'd defaulted, then consolidated later, stretching the debt out. My own credit report was clean. Parent Plus loans don't appear on the student's file. But knowing they'd tanked their own credit for a loan they'd lorded over me as leverage felt poetic. I looked at their income. They'd submitted tax returns showing a net profit for the business, but just barely. Their debt-to-income ratio, once I added in the requested $250K credit line, was far beyond what our policy allowed. Even without the new loan, they were on the high side. I knew what the answer would be, barring some miracle. They didn't qualify. At least, not without significant changes, paying off other debts, providing more collateral, or bringing in a cosigner with better credit and income. I smiled ruefully at that last thought. Cosigners. Those were fun. I printed my analysis, highlighted the key factors, and sent Sam an email, based on credit history, multiple recent delinquencies, current DTI of 63%, and limited available equity after existing liens. Applicants do not meet guidelines for requested HELOC amount. Even at a significantly reduced line amount, would require risk level exception. Recommendation: decline as submitted. He replied 10 minutes later. Let's schedule a meeting with them to go over options before we issue a formal decline. I'll sit in. My stomach did a slow roll. There it was. Proof that this was really happening. They showed up to the appointment 5 minutes late, as if they owned the place. I watched through the glass wall of my office as they walked in. Dad in his Miller flooring and amp design polo, Mom in a blazer that was trying very hard to look like it came from an expensive store. Our receptionist pointed them toward my office. They froze when they saw me sitting behind the desk. Mom recovered first. "Rachel?" she said, blinking. "What are you doing here?" "I work here," I said, standing. Dad's eyes flicked to my nameplate, then to the title under it, Senior Loan Officer. His mouth tightened. "I thought you were at some credit union," he said. "That was years ago," I replied. "Please, have a seat. Sam, my manager, will join us in a moment." They sat, stiff-backed. Mom's eyes scanned my office, taking in the framed diploma, the plant in the corner, the photo of me with friends on a hiking trip. "Very professional," she said. There was something like resentment in her tone. Sam came in, shook their hands, and did the standard small talk. "Rachel tells me you run a flooring and remodel business," he said. "My wife and I were just talking about updating our kitchen." Dad lit up, launching into his well-worn sales pitch. He talked about quality, family values, how they'd sacrificed everything to build the company. I sat there, hands folded, fighting the urge to roll my eyes. After a few minutes, Sam gently steered the conversation back. "Let's talk about what brings you in today," he said. "You're looking for a home equity line to consolidate some debt and invest back into the business, correct?" Dad nodded. "Yeah," he said. "We've got some high-interest stuff we want to wrap into one payment, free up cash flow, you know how it is. And we've got an opportunity to take over the space next door and really expand the showroom. We just need some working capital." He glanced at me. "We thought it was a sign that our daughter works here," he added. "Full circle, right? She got into business because of us." He laughed. Sam smiled politely. "Well, you're certainly in capable hands," he said. "Rachel's one of our best. She's done a thorough review of your application. Rachel?" I pulled up the file on my screen. "First, thank you for considering Horizon for your financing," I said, slipping into my professional script. "I know applying for credit can feel stressful, so we'll walk you through everything." Mom waved a hand. "We're not worried," she said. "We've had equity lines before. We know the drill. And with Rachel here, I'm sure it'll be an easy yes." She smiled at me like we were co-conspirators. I kept my face neutral. "Before we get to a decision, I want to make sure the information we have is accurate," I said. "I've reviewed your credit reports, income documents, and current mortgage. Based on that, there are a few concerns we need to discuss." Dad's smile faded slightly. "Concerns?" he repeated. "Yes," I said. "For one, your current debt-to-income ratio, your total monthly debt payments compared to your monthly income is at 63%. Our maximum allowed for this type of loan is 45%. Adding a $250,000 line on top of that would put you near 80%. Dad frowned. "Those ratios are always exaggerated," he said. "They don't count the cash that comes in under the table. We do lots of jobs where people pay cash." Sam cleared his throat. "From a regulatory standpoint, we can only consider documented, verifiable income," he said. "Cash that isn't reported on tax returns can't be used to qualify." Mom scoffed. "So we're punished for being honest on our taxes?" she said. I bit my tongue. "Additionally," I continued, "your credit report shows several late payments in the last 2 years, including a 60-day late on your truck loan and a 90-day late on a business line with First State Bank." Dad shifted in his chair. We hit a rough patch during the shutdowns, he said. Everyone did. We're caught up now. I understand, I said. But our policy requires no 60-day or greater delinquencies in the past 24 months for this product, unless we get an exception approved at higher levels. Exceptions are rare and usually reserved for low-risk profiles otherwise. Given your current leverage, that would be difficult. Mom leaned forward. Rachel, she said, dropping her voice into the tone she'd used when she wanted me to side with her against Dad. You know us. We're not some strangers off the street. We've always paid our bills eventually. You know how hard your father works. I chose my words carefully. I do know how hard you work, I said. I also know how seriously the bank takes lending standards. My job is to apply those standards the same way for everyone. That protects the bank and our customers. Dad's eyes narrowed. So what are you saying? He asked. You're not going to approve this? I'm saying that as it stands now, your application does not meet our guidelines, I said. We may be able to consider a smaller line amount if you pay down some existing debts first, or if you're able to bring in additional collateral. But approving $250,000 today would mean ignoring multiple red flags. Mom stared at me like I'd slapped her. You'd really do this to us? She whispered. To your own parents? The room felt smaller. I took a slow breath. When I applied to Great Lakes, I said quietly, you told me, if you want to make your own adult decisions, you can pay your own adult bills. Do you remember that? They both stiffened. This isn't about college, Dad said. This is about our home, our business, our legacy. It's all about the same thing, I said. Money and responsibility. Back then, you made a decision about what support you were willing to give. You were allowed to do that. Now I'm sitting in the chair where I have to make decisions too. Not as your daughter, but as a loan officer who answers to regulators and risk committees. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We did what we had to do, she said. You were getting mouthy, changing your major, disrespecting us. We weren't going to fund rebellion. And I figured it out, I said. I worked, I studied, I finished my degree. I didn't come back asking you to bail me out. I did what you told me to do. I became an adult who pays her own bills. That's why I'm sitting here. Dad's jaw clenched. And now what? He said. You're going to take some petty revenge by denying us a loan we clearly qualify for? You don't clearly qualify, said, sliding a printed summary of their DTI and credit history across the desk. If this was anyone else, you know what I'd have to say? I'm sorry, but at this time the bank is unable to extend credit in the amount requested. Mom pushed the paper away. You could make an exception, she said. You just said they do that. Put in a good word. Tell them you know our character. Sam spoke up then. Exceptions require strong compensating factors, he said. In this case, the risk is high. We'd be doing you a disservice by letting you dig in deeper without a clear path to repay. So you'd rather we lose the house? Mom snapped. No, I said. I'd rather you look at a realistic budget, maybe downsize, maybe sell a truck. Maybe close the showroom expansion plan until your existing debts are under control. Dad scoffed. You sound just like those internet financial gurus, he said. Easy to judge when you're sitting behind a desk with a steady paycheck. You have no idea what it's like to run a business. I thought of the nights watching them juggle bills, listening to them fight about who to pay first. I have some idea, I said. I also have no power to change the math. Even if I wanted to, the system would catch it, and I won't risk my job, my stability for a loan that doesn't meet standards. Mom's lips trembled. We raised you, she said. We gave you everything. And this is how you repay us? By hiding behind policies? The hypocrisy hit like a wave. You didn't give me everything, I said quietly. You gave until my choices stopped matching yours. Then you cut me off and told me I was on my own. You can't now turn around and demand that I ignore my responsibilities to save you from the consequences of your own choices. Dad stood up abruptly, chair scraping. Meeting's over, he said. We'll take our business somewhere else. Somewhere family means something. Sam stayed calm. You're absolutely free to apply with other institutions, he said. They'll pull the same credit reports we did. They'll see the same numbers. They might reach a different conclusion. But here, we have to follow our policies consistently. That protects not just the bank, but honestly, it protects you from getting into even more debt than you can handle. Mom glared at me, tears spilling over. I hope you're happy, she said. You ruined our chances. I swallowed hard. I hope someday you understand that I just did my job, I said. The same way you thought you were doing yours when you taught me that adults pay for their own decisions. They left without another word. The door closed. I sat there, hands shaking, staring at the empty chairs. Sam was silent for a moment. That was... I laughed weakly. Sorry, I said. That got more personal than I planned. You still followed policy, he said. You explained the reasoning, you offered alternatives. You were more patient than some officers with total strangers. He paused. Do you want me to deliver the formal decline letter? He asked. I can put my name on it instead. I thought about it. Part of me wanted that buffer. But another part of me, the part that had sat at that kitchen table being told I was on my own, felt like I needed to own this too. No, I said. I'll sign it. They already know it's coming. He nodded. For what it's worth, he said, I'm proud of how you handled that. Something in my chest loosened. No one in my family had ever said those words to me. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear them from someone. News travels fast in small towns. Within a week, my brother Jason texted. Mom's telling everyone you destroyed their business at the bank. Are you okay? I stared at the screen for a long second. I'm fine, I replied. And GT, I just did my job. There was a pause. Of course you did, he wrote. And GT, they just don't like hearing no from their own playbook. Then low-key kind of proud of you. I smiled. High-key kind of proud of myself, I wrote back. A month later, one of my old high school teachers came in to open a savings account. As I helped her, she said casually, So, your folks are selling the showroom space next door. Heard they're downsizing. I raised an eyebrow. I said, keeping my tone neutral. She nodded. About time if you ask me, she said. They've been stretched thin for years. Maybe this will let them breathe a little. Anyway, they're lucky they've got at least one kid with good sense. I didn't ask how much of the story she knew. I just smiled and handed her the receipt. In the months that followed, my parents didn't try to contact me. I saw the for lease sign go up in the extra showroom. I heard, through Jason, that they'd sold one of their trucks and let go of 2 part-time employees. They're mad at everyone, he said in one message. The bank, the economy, the city. Anyone but themselves. It hurt. But it also didn't. Not the way it used to. Because for the first time I could see clearly where their responsibility ended and mine began. They taught me, harshly, that you can't expect other people to bail you out when you ignore reality. I'd applied that lesson to myself. They just didn't expect it applied to them too. About a year after the declined loan, my mother showed up at my branch. I saw her through the glass as she wandered in, looking smaller than I remembered. Her hair had more gray in it. She hesitated at the teller line, then went to the new accounts desk. Our junior banker, a cheerful 22-year-old named Bry, greeted her. How can I help you today? Bry asked. I need to open a new checking account, Mom said. Our old bank raised fees again. My husband said Horizon has better ones. Bry pulled up the system. Absolutely, she said. Do you have an existing relationship with us? Mom hesitated. My daughter works here, she said. Rachel Miller. She's a loan officer. Bry lit up. Rachel's great, she said. She's actually right over there if you want to say hi. I'd been trying to look busy, but now there was no hiding. Mom turned. Our eyes met. For a second, No one moved. Then she walked over, slow. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi," I replied. Up close I could see the lines by her eyes. "You look good," she said. "Professional. Thanks," I said. "How are you?" She shrugged. Business is smaller, but we're managing." "That's good," I said. Silence settled between us. She fiddled with the strap of her purse. "I came to open an account," she said. "It doesn't have to be with you. I know you're busy." "I'm happy to help," I said. "If you want." She searched my face. "I don't know what I want," she admitted. "I know what your father wants. He wants to march in here and demand to see your boss." She gave a humorless laugh. "He thinks he can convince him you were too emotional about the loan." "He can ask," I said. "Sam will show him the same guidelines I did." She nodded, looking down. "I know," she said. "Deep down, I know you were right." The words stunned me. She took a breath. "I was so angry watching you sit in that chair, telling us no," she said. "It felt backwards. Parents don't get told no by their kids." It messed with my head. I stayed quiet. "I also remember telling you in this very dramatic voice that you were on your own now," she went on. "I meant it to scare you straight. Make you come home, follow our plan." She met my eyes. "Instead, you actually went out there and built a life without us. And then there you were, in a nice office, explaining loan ratios I barely understood." She shook her head. "It's taken me a long time to admit that maybe we didn't launch you. Maybe we pushed you away." My throat tightened. "I'm not perfect either," I said quietly. "I was angry. I still am some days. Turning down that loan, part of me enjoyed the symmetry more than it probably should have." She gave a sad smile. "Well, you came by it honestly," she said. "We taught you to be hard when we should have been kind." She shifted her weight. "I'm not here to ask you to fix anything," she said. "I know you can't. I'm just trying to figure out how to have a relationship with a daughter who doesn't need us anymore." "I still needed you," I said. "Just not as an ATM." She winced. "I know," she said. The word hung there fragile. I let it land. "Thank you," I said. We weren't going to unpack a decade of hurt in the middle of a bank branch. But it was a start. I helped her open the account. We kept the conversation mostly on practical things: direct deposit, debit cards, online banking. When she left, she paused at my door. "I heard you finished your degree," she said. "Congratulations. I should have said that sooner." "Thanks," I said. "I worked hard for it." "I'm sure you did," she said. "You always were the stubborn one." She smiled, a real one this time. "Tell your brother to call me," I said. She nodded. "I will," she said. "And Rachel? Yeah? Even if we weren't the ones to catch you." After she left, I sat there for a minute, feeling something loosen in my chest. Not full forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of something less sharp. People love to talk about cutting off toxic family like it's a clean act. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you block the number, change the locks, and never look back. But sometimes, life loops around in strange ways. Sometimes you end up sitting across from the very people who once told you you're on your own, holding their financial future in your hands. In those moments, it's tempting to swing the axe harder. To let anger steer. What I learned, sitting in that office, is that real power doesn't come from breaking the rules to hurt someone. It comes from keeping your boundaries even when it would feel good to cross them. My parents cut me off. They thought it would scare me into obedience. Instead, it forced me to become exactly the kind of adult they always said they wanted: independent, responsible, able to pay my own bills. They just didn't expect that meant I'd also be able to say no to them. When they met me as their loan officer, I didn't ruin their lives. I just refused to save them from their own math. Their business shrank. They downsized. They learned, slowly, that family takes care of family doesn't mean children must always clean up their parents' messes. And me? I go home to a little townhouse I bought with my own money. I park in my assigned spot. I pay my mortgage on time. Sometimes, when I'm reviewing a loan file for a scared 19-year-old with no cosigner and parents who won't fill out the FAFSA, I go to bat as hard as I legally can finding grants, pointing them to resources, explaining how to build credit. I can't fix everything. But I can be the kind of adult I needed back then. My parents once told me from here on out, you're on your own. They meant it as a punishment. Turns out it was the best financial advice they ever gave me. They just never imagined I'd be the one repeating it back calmly, across a bank desk, with a decline letter and a clear conscience.